Hey guys, it's your boy Ricky. I'm representing for Tech. So in this video I'm going to show you guys how to connect your Zosi IP wireless cameras via Ethernet connection. First off, let me say I love the system because it gives you the option to use your cameras wirelessly or via the wired connection. So you know that normally if your cameras are like 100 feet or more from your NVR, you'll have signal problems using them wirelessly. So for those cameras, we would love to use them via the Ethernet connection. So what we would do is run Ethernet cable to your cameras, and then from the camera to a network switch, then from the network switch would go to the NVR. So in order for your cameras to work via the Ethernet connection, they have to be at the latest firmware version. If they're at an earlier firmware version, they won't work that way. I've had that problem before, and I had to contact tech support, and they helped me to figure all this out. So now I'm making this video for you guys to do it as well. So let's check the firmware version of my NVR. So it go main menu, that's right click, go main menu, then you'd go information, then you go system. So the firmware version of my NVR is 1.6.4, so that's the latest firmware version that Zosi has for this type of system. So let's check the firmware version of my camera that's connected. So I would go right click, then I would go IP channel config. So I only have one camera that's connected, so my firmware version for that camera is 3.2.0. so that's the latest firmware version for this camera. So here it says connected. So right now I have this camera connected via the Ethernet connection. So if you look here, you don't see a signal bar right here, it's blank. So if I should plug this out, the camera would go offline for a minute or so, and then it will come back online wirelessly. So there we go. So if you notice right here at the right hand corner of the screen, there's a signal bar. So this is full. See, yeah, it's working wirelessly right now. So we're gonna upgrade this camera. So from your thumb drive, you'd have to put the software version that you want to update this camera to. So first off, your thumb drive has to be formatted so FAT32. If it's not in that format, your NVR won't read the thumb drive. So guys, I'm gonna plug in the camera that's not updated. And then we're gonna search for that camera. So we'll go right click, IP channel config. This is saying unconnected. Reason is that because we plug out the camera that's updated. So we're gonna search, and what you would notice is that the camera won't come up. The reason is that the camera is at an earlier firmware version, which is not 3.2.0. So we'd click search again, you won't see the camera coming up. So what we got to do is we have to downgrade our NVR, because remember that the NVR is at the latest firmware version. So if we downgrade the NVR, we would be able to find this camera. So I'm going to show you guys how to downgrade your NVR to a earlier firmware version that's supported to pick up this camera. Okay guys, so I'm gonna show you how to put the software on the thumb drive that you would use to downgrade your NVR to the earlier firmware version that we need to pick up the cameras. So what we're gonna do is, I've created a folder with the firmware versions for the downgrading and the upgrading. So I'm gonna go to my folder. I'm gonna go to the file that I've saved the downgraded file into, so I can put the NVR to an earlier date. So I'll go here, then I'll copy the file, then I'm gonna put it to my thumb drive. There we go. So now I'm gonna exit. Guys, it's best not to have anything else on the thumb drive that you're gonna use, so that the NVR can just read that file. So we're gonna unplug, then we'll go back to our NVR. Okay guys, so in order to downgrade your NVR, it's the same process upgrading. So what we're gonna do is, first we have to power down the NVR. So we're gonna plug out the power. We're gonna plug out our mouse. Then we're gonna plug in the thumb drive. After the thumb drive is plugged in, we're gonna power up our NVR. When the NVR is powering up, it will automatically detect the file on the thumb drive, and then it will begin to upgrade / downgrade to the software version that we want. So as you see on the screen, that's what you'll be seeing for maybe a minute or two. So now we have to wait. Okay guys, so now we're back online. It's booting up now. Okay, here we go. So now we'll unplug our thumb drive. Plug in our mouse. Then we'll click finish. Okay guys, so now that we're back online, I've attached a pole to this camera that wasn't upgraded. As I was saying, remember that if the NVR is at the latest firmware version and the cameras aren't, the NVR won't find the cameras when you click search. So now that the NVR is at a version that can pick up this camera, what we're gonna do is we're gonna click search. But first let me go back in how to go to this. So we'll right click, go to IP channel config, then we'll click search. So here we go. So now we can Wi-Fi add this camera. As you see, the camera is now online. Here we go. So the camera is now online. Now we're gonna check the firmware version of the NVR. So we'd right click, main menu, information system. So the NVR firmware is 1.6.2. remember the latest one is 1.6.4. so now we're back down to 1.6.2, which can find this camera. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna upgrade our camera in order for it to work via the Ethernet connection. So I'm gonna walk you guys through again on how to put the software on the thumb drive. and then we can upgrade our camera. So now let's go to the thumb drive. I'm gonna delete the ungraded file for the camera that we had on the thumb drive. Now I'm gonna put the firmware version that I want the camera to be upgraded to on the thumb drive. So this is the image file that the camera will read to be upgraded. So we're gonna copy that, then we're gonna paste that on the thumb drive. So that's it. Then we're gonna close this and eject our thumb drive. Okay, now so let's upgrade our camera. So I'm gonna plug my thumb drive in, which I just did, and I'm gonna right click, IP channel config, and then we'll select this camera, and then we'll select upgrade. So this is saying waiting because it won't do anything unless we tell it to. So we're gonna click start. So it's reading the upgraded file from the thumb drive, and now as you see there's something happening right here. So we're gonna wait until that it's 100%. Okay, so it's finished, so we're gonna close this. Let's go back to the camera. So we go right click, IP channel config. If you notice here, the connection status will say unconnected because now the camera is at a later firmware version than the NVR. So what you have to do now is you got to upgrade back the NVR to the firmware version that will read the camera that's at the newest version right now. So what we'll do is the same process. We'll take our thumb drive, put the firmware version on the thumb drive, then we'll plug back the thumb drive in the NVR while it's powered down, and then we'll reattach back the power. Then when you reattach the power, it will read the firmware version that you want the NVR to be, and then it will upgrade. And then after that you can search for the camera again, then it will pick up the camera, then you would add the camera. So you could do cable add at that time. So after you do the cable add, it will work either wirelessly if there's no Ethernet connection to it, or it will work wired if you plug an Ethernet cable to it, to a switch, then to the NVR it will work. So guys, just please remember that if you upgrade your NVR before your cameras, you'll have problem finding the cameras. So what you gotta do is upgrade all your cameras first, and then you would upgrade the NVR. So thank you guys for watching.